This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
From the beginning of time, humans have tried to heal themselves with ritual and prayer, and with whatever nature provided. Through thousands of years of trial and error, formal systems of healthcare developed, systems based on foods, herbs, and other natural remedies. These systems live side by side with what we call Western medicine. Western medicine has been an enormous benefit in helping to conquer devastating infections and perfecting surgical procedures. But there is more to medicine than doctors and hospitals, and that's exactly what we'll explore this week on A Better Way to Health. Hello, I'm Stuart Shipe, a registered pharmacist, acupuncture physician, and Chinese herbalist. I'm your host this week. We make no effort to recommend or to judge, only offer that you explore a theory that good medicine comes in many forms. So let's get started. Phone lines are open for you this morning for questions, comments, or experiences about your health on WPSL at 340-1590. That's 340-1590. Let's hear from you.
Okay, folks, time to start another show. Thank you for being with me. You can reach me in many different ways. Very first way is the easiest, like we just said, call the radio studio. That's 340-1590. They will get you on the air, get your question to me, and I'll get you the best answer I can possibly muster. You can actually call the office, 398-4550, or stop by. We're right just north of the Roosevelt Bridge. We'd be happy to see you in the office, take you on a tour, and sit down and listen to what you have going on with your health. Or you can get online. Info at Traditional Chinese Healing is a way to contact us. Our normal website, traditionalchinesehealing.com, very simple to remember, is the way to get a ton of information about the practice and what we're doing. And we are revamping that in probably the next couple of weeks. We are undergoing major changes in the office to try and open up access. Now we have Dr. Jin Yi is her name in Chinese. Dr. Sandra Jin is with us in the practice now. So we are doubling the amount of patients that we can see. I was getting to the point where people were having to wait weeks before they can get in and see me, which is never really good. But one way you can also, I just was reminded to observe the show is, thank you, Cheryl, for watching us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dr. Shipe. Now that we're on Zoom, man, so many ways. Greg actually is putting the Zoom the recordings on his, is it WPSL television.com, right?
That's it, WPSL TV, and it's on YouTube, and I guess there may be 1,800 shows up there now.
Wow. Yeah. So information overload, you know. I want to, I was thinking about what to do. I wasn't really, didn't really have a specific topic in mind today. I'm always open to your topic because that's obviously the most important. So if you want to type in Facebook or call Greg here, 340-1590, I'll be happy to answer that. But, you know, I started thinking about, you know, with all the weather changing, isn't it weird? You know, we go from very cold in Florida, and then all of a sudden the next day it's like 91 degrees out. And I started thinking this is a change of the seasons again. And in Chinese medicine, we always talk about that during these changes, during these kind of solstices, when the universe is changing, when we go from winter to spring, like we are now, or spring to summer and so forth, the body can become a little bit unstable based on natural philosophy in Chinese medicine. And it's the best time to receive a treatment. And the reason for that is as we undergo the same changes as the universe, because we definitely are connected to nature, is the fact that we have to support that change. If we don't support that change, and for instance, the spring season, when all the energy of the earth is coming up and out, if you think about it, you're starting to see buds coming back on trees again. The grass is starting to grow again, at least down here in Florida. If you're looking at me from Michigan, or maybe you still got snow on the ground, or Colorado perhaps, but down here in Florida, spring is coming. And so with that, energy coming up and out is the same in us. Energy is rising and coming up. And if it comes up uncontrolled, so to speak, and unregulated, these are problems that we call allergies, high blood pressure, migraine headaches, sinus congestion, postnasal drip, all of it, even hot flashes or vasomotor symptoms in women. all can be exacerbated during this time of the year.
Yeah, but the question I have is, do you have a cure for daylight savings itis?
Yeah, actually, there is a treatment in Chinese medicine for that.
No, come on.
There is. No, I'm kidding.
The Chinese didn't have daylight savings, did they?
I'm being very serious. And here's the key. You know, when I did my residencies in Beijing, Greg, I was up, not by my own wanting to get up, but at 5 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because the sun in China, it would probably set around 11 o'clock at night, 10:30 at Beijing.
Sure.
And that was, I believe, in the springtime. I think I was there. It would set about 11 o'clock because I remember playing basketball at the university with some of these Chinese students. And we were playing at like 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night, because it was still fairly light up. But 5 o'clock in the morning, the sun comes up. And man, it's kind of like beaming through your window, and look out your window and you'll see all the people doing monkey qigong, doing exercises already. They're up and out already. And I said, this is not working for me because I kind of have a new jet lag, like a change of time, right? But the body adapts. It's interesting that the body adapts fairly quickly to the environment in which it's in. So what does that mean is as soon as I land in Beijing, the very first thing I'm looking for is to grab and start eating local food, local fruit or local vegetables, because those local fruits and vegetables I know this sounds really, really far out, but it's definitely intuitive if you think about it. Everything has a life force, and the vegetables and the fruit know where they are, and they know that they're in China. And so when I consume that food, I'm consuming not only the innate intelligence of that plant, but that plant is giving me information that I am now in China and I am not in the United States anymore. And it's a self-regulatory process that the body can undergo, and fairly quickly if you just give it the local support. So if you tend to get up, rise earlier, and go to bed later in that type of environment, you don't have that crash that usually occurs. And so we're coming up to go daylight savings time, right? 1 hour, but it really does shift people off significantly for a little period of time. So the best way to do it is to start on the new schedule right away. So if you're springing ahead, that means we gain another hour, right? So stay busy in the afternoon and go to bed an hour later. Rise same time. But it's interesting how even the weirdest things, like, can you help me with motivation, Dr. Shipe? I'm not motivated. Could you help me? Because I get scared at night. Or some of these kind of seemingly odd type of disorders that you would never think that Chinese medicine can address, they are in our 5-element system. Strong will is associated with the liver, the ability to succeed or to thrive, another organ system. Every single organ is controlled with a certain emotion, a certain flavor, a certain color. And that's how the Chinese medical doctor diagnoses people when they come in and they say, oh, I don't have any drive anymore. I don't have any motivation. I don't have any will to go forward. And we check the pulse, and sure enough, it's a liver pulse or a gallbladder pulse that's out of balance. And we say, well, we can help that. We help that by strengthening the organ system. See, the Chinese doctor, the emotions aren't in the brain. The emotions come in through the heart, but they're kept in the organs. So anxiety and panic and fear is a kidney problem. Irritability and anger and vexation, constantly ruminating about something, that's a liver problem. Pensiveness, thinking, a spleen problem. Heart is calm. The Shen has to be calm. So if you're constantly agitated, or you're constantly, I should say, stimulated, what would that be? Constantly on Facebook or on your PDA, on your device, on your phone device, constantly watching television, constantly listening to the radio, you're overstimulating the system. And at some point in time, that's going to cause disease as well. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
now, the current thing that's going on, obviously, is I know you're not a fan of vaccines, but like the COVID vaccine, the first shot usually is a breeze. The second one might knock you on your butt. We just had.
Yeah, we just had a physician that just was here in the practice. And he said, I got my first, no problem. My second put me out for 3 days. I had high fever, I had sweats, I had nausea, all the classic symptoms of COVID. And you're like, well, how come that happened? How come it didn't happen on the first vaccine? How come it happened on the second vaccine? I kind of attribute it a little bit to, you ever watch, Wild Hogs? It was a movie with all these four guys that decide to take motorcycle trip out west or something like that. Anyway, they went and they tried to slap a bull. They wanted to go and have some fun. So they went to a corral that had a bull in the middle of it. The bull wasn't watching them. One guy, first of all, goes out and he sneaks up to the back of the bull and he swats that bull on its hind quarter. And then he runs like the dickens right back to the fence, the safety of the fence. The bull turned around and just kind of looked at him like, what did you just do? So the bull went back to his business and the second guy comes off the fence, right? And he starts sneaking up behind the bull, right? And he swats the bull in the butt. But guess what? This time the bull knew it was coming. So, and he ran like the dickens. So what I'm telling you is the moral of that story is that sometimes you wake the immune system up. That very first vaccine gives the immune system like a heads up, like, whoa, who are you and what are you all about? And it begins to mount what we call an antigen antibody reaction. We start developing antibodies to try and deal with this foreign invader. So now the second vaccine, whether it's a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever they're doing, you get that second vaccine. Whoa, now the bull's woken up. So that comes into the system now. The antibodies are already ready to go because, see, they've spread the gospel throughout the whole immune system that, hey, listen, this is the foreign guy. This is the foreign invader. If you ever see him in the body again, you attack him. And these are a lot of times we develop really sensitivity in what we call an immune globulin, IgG, IgM, IgA. What these immune globulins are they're part of the white blood cell wake-up system. When I always used to say, when the mother white blood cell that has babies comes in contact with a virus or what we would call an antigen, a foreign particle in the bloodstream or in the body, it not only recognizes
Okay, Stuart, I'm losing you here.
I'm sorry to hear. Let's see if we can get this back here.
You're back. You are back. Gotcha.
Greg, did I get it back? Okay.
Yep, you got it. Well, I don't know what happened, but yeah.
Yeah, my speaker's not working, I guess. So anyway, you can hear me, right, Greg?
You got it.
So
going.
What I look at is that whole system of regulation, especially with the immune globulins, that mother is actually giving all of her children who are actually part of the immune system the mug shot of that foreign invader. So when that foreign invader comes back into the body again, you're going to have quite an immune reaction occur, depending on how strong your immune system actually is. And I hope, does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
I think so.
It does.
So we're going to take a short break here on A Better Way to Health. We will be right back after this short announcement and right back with you guys. Okay.
Some pretty good Irish step dancing.
I bet the Chinese people don't dance like that.
No, I don't think so, but they do have an amazing form of healing called acupuncture.
You're just saying that because you're an acupuncture physician, Chinese herbalist, and pharmacist.
No, when you get older, you'll contemplate being able to dance like you do now.
What's contemplate?
It's what a lot of Treasure Coast people do when they get older, have symptoms of disease, and wish they had better health.
Healthy like me? Why don't they have a free evaluation at your office?
You're so smart. It's never too late to learn a better way to health, honey.
Have them call 398-4550. Ask for Dr. Stuart Shipe, my daddy. Their problems aren't going to get better, maybe worse.
Yes, it's called degenerative disease.
They'll feel much better if you can help them, right?
They'll feel great.
It doesn't cost anything to find out if you can help them.
Not a penny. I'm not going to waste their time or money if I can't help them.
Call Dr. Stuart Shipe at 398-4550.
Visit the office in North Stuart or the website, traditionalchinesehealing.com.
This is WPSL.
Okay, we're back. Greg, I don't have a feed here. My speaker must not be working.
It is 11:23 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast, and you're on A Better Way to Health with Dr. Stuart Shipe.
How about now? Are we back? Okay.
You are back.
So we're having a little bit of audio here. But anyway, we're back to A Better Way to Health. And I'm glad you joined us. If you have questions, give Greg a call, 340-1590. And he'll get the call to us and get an answer out ASAP. If you're on Facebook, thank you, Heather and Pat and Cheryl. Thank you all for watching on facebook.com/Dr. Shipe. We had, that was an interesting question Greg posed about, the vaccine, about getting it twice, because that is, I've tried to add a little bit of information every single week on the vaccine. And a lot of people are still up in the air. Couldn't I get it? Should I not get it? Like I said, you can go back onto my Facebook role on traditionalchinesehealing.com. I had a whole couple of shows on that decision-making process. Really don't want to throw it out, so many times people get, tired of that, but it is important to get all the facts and all the data before you make a decision of what you want to do. I will tell you, one of the things that I find in my practice is kind of a misconception that we are doing really, really well. This isn't going to be a Dr. Doom lecture, but I think about it all the time when I hear people that come in and sit down with me and say, Dr. Shipe, I'm doing great. I'm really healthy and I just want to have my body checked out. And I was like, okay, so are you on any medicines or any medications? Well, of course, I take a medicine for high blood pressure. I take one for high cholesterol and take one to keep my blood sugar under control. And of course, you look at them and you know that they're at least overweight, if not obese. And you start wondering, are we so bombarded every single day with news stories of just how sick we are, like Patti LaBelle having diabetes, or we used to have Sally Fields. Is she still alive, Greg? Sally Fields on talking about osteoporosis, or Brooke Shields taking antidepressants or something like that. It's crazy, but we're inundated. And I think a little bit, we become sensitized to what true health is. I mean, what is the definition of health? And am I truly healthy? Because see, if I have a patient that comes in and they're on medications, in my book, they're not healthy. Although they may not have symptoms and they feel really well, to me, they're not healthy. And when we look at even the stats from the American Heart Association, the deaths from cardiovascular disease have gone up 28.9% of all deaths from 2001 to 36.3% in 2004. I don't even have the recent stats. I mean, can you think of cardiovascular disease #1 killer in the United States other than cancer? So I really go back and try and reframe that question to the individual is, if you weren't taking medicines at this point in time, if you were to stop your medicines or stop your current therapy, medical therapy, would you still be as healthy and as good feeling as you are right now? And patients, I think, get scared about that. And they say, well, maybe not. My blood pressure would go up, or my cholesterol, I'd have a heart attack because my doctor told me if I don't take the statin drug, I'm going to have a heart attack. I don't use scare tactics like that. And certainly I am more into the wondering of why. Why do I have the problem? And albeit that I'm not necessarily always against intervention, medication intervention, because I think it has its time and place, I'm always seeking to try and find out the why. Why does this person have high blood pressure, diabetes, blood sugar problems? Why are they overweight? Roughly 25% of them, all of adult Americans are obese. Now we're looking at over 30% now, 2020. CDC has called obesity an epidemic. So you think that COVID is an epidemic. I can tell you it kills almost 500,000 people a year. What are we up to with COVID now? 1 million? Something like that, a little over 1 million people. I mean, a total country. I'm talking 500,000 people a year in the US. So if we're killing that many people every single year with obesity, wouldn't you think that we should really be working as hard at keeping people in a healthy weight range than even more so than COVID right now?
Okay,
So I think just sometimes we have priorities messed up, and not only that, because we have this naive situation going on where it's okay because everybody is a little overweight. It's okay that everyone is doing this or everyone's feeling that way, or isn't it always like I get in my consults or my exams? But I feel a little bit of stiffness and arthritis, but everybody at my age feels that, right? And I look at them and I was like, you know, when I was in Beijing, China, and outside of the Temple of Heaven on a tour, they had a beautiful park. It must have been a couple of acres. I'm telling you, it was huge. And they had exercise equipment out in the park that the seniors would come and they would congregate there, because a senior's life, tell you the truth, in China ain't too bad. The kids are culturally responsible for taking care of their parents. They kind of have a life of leisure. The children pay for the parents' vacation. The children pay to feed the parents, to house the parents. And the parents really have a kind of a nice retirement at that point. Now I'm speaking generally, but for the most part, they're hanging out in this park. And I went up to some guy, because I keep that in the back of my mind when people at 70 years old or so are telling me, yeah, well, I've got back problems, but everybody has that and I'm healthy. And I look at this guy, he was doing splits on top of monkey bars. And the guy must have been in at least his 80s. So I asked him, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 84 years old. And I was like, I am impressed. I was like, and this guy was doing splits on top of monkey bars, just hanging out. And I look at that and I look at it was really hard to scan hundreds of people. And I'm talking hundreds of people in that park at that day and find someone that was overweight. It was extremely hard to try and find someone like that. It's just a culture. It's a cultural philosophy. Now, there is a lot of things that probably go into that. And you're going to say, well, what's the magic cure for weight loss? Well, I'm going to tell you, just like Alzheimer's disease, just like many other disorders, and it is a disease, overweight leading to obesity is a disease disorder. That creates just fat cells in and of themselves are inflammatory, and they will create inflammatory response and inflammatory chemicals into the system. So what's the cure for that? Well, you could say, well, a diet for sure, right? We have to get going with diet and exercise. Everybody knows about that. But have you ever thought that maybe it was a little bit beyond your control in the fact maybe it was an internal organ problem? You ever thought about that? That might be an interesting concept. Because if the regulator of all of our hormones, if the great decision maker of should I make more cholesterol, less cholesterol, should I store blood sugar, should I not store blood sugar, should I take very bad toxicity, heavy metals, things like that out of the blood so my system can work more efficiently. If it wasn't doing that and our bodies started becoming toxic, so to speak, and it's not like it happens overnight. I mean, I lecture on literally toxic environmental toxicity. And one of the key words that we use is called toxic burden. It means that the little by little by little, the daily little insults of toxins, whether it's volatile, like in my house right now, putting down flooring, you know, windows are open because all of the planking going down is plasticizers and plastics. And you have to let that stuff off gas. It can be very, very toxic. New carpeting, furniture. So if my system is not optimally functioning, I'm not talking about not having symptoms, I'm talking about optimally functioning. What system would I probably need to focus on most is my liver. And I kind of thought about this presentation right before I jumped on the radio here about like, what can I talk about springtime and all the energy of the earth coming up? And what does that have to do with the liver? Well, the springtime in Chinese, kind of Chinese medical language is associated, that environmental time of the year is associated with the liver and the gallbladder, interestingly enough. Because think about if the liver is also associated in Chinese medicine with the element of wood, then wood grows and wood can be a plant. So as a plant comes up and out of the ground, we say the energy of the earth is wood. It's the liver and gallbladder energy. And new beginnings also for the springtime. If you were to take, you probably heard this is probably old news. If you were to take a small portion of the liver and chop it off, you would think, oh, that'd be very, very bad, because if someone had, like, say you ate amanita mushrooms or something like that, and the death cap mushrooms, and that poison went through the intestines, ultimately back to the liver, you're probably going to ultimately have liver failure, and that's what's going to kill you from the amanita mushrooms. But the liver is going to take that first hit. You can actually take and carve a portion of the liver off its organ and have that liver regrow itself back to the original liver. And you're thinking, that's crazy. But the Chinese, how did they know that 2,000 years ago? How did they say the liver is wood and it can be regenerative? It can actually take care of itself. And this is where I think we can use the beauty of this time of the year here in the spring season to start thinking about how can I support my liver's function so that even if I'm taking drug therapy, which definitely puts sometimes a burden on the liver, and because the liver is responsible for taking all chemicals, all potential poisons out of the body, including drugs, would be considered a toxin or a poison to the system. How do I support that? How do I help in that detoxification system? Because as far as I know, detoxification is all about having a loose bowel movement, going to the bathroom 10 times a day, right? No, I'm not talking about that type of detoxification. That's very, very hard on the body. It's harsh. It's definitely draining on the system. The detoxification I usually talk about in the springtime is how do I support the systems? How do I support the liver's ability to metabolize toxins? Does that liver have all the nutrition that it needs? Does it have the vitamin C and the glutathione? And am I well hydrating the body so the body can use a ton of water to kind of flush its system out that way? And we know we all live in a toxic environment, and they're in every single place. But I mean, it's crazy when you don't recognize, when you become naive to the fact that all of these toxins are on your system every single day, and your body does a pretty good job at getting rid of them. But ultimately, how do you get ahead of the game instead of waiting for toxic exposures to start hitting you, like fatigue and tiredness or headaches or nausea or having your appetite go off or starting to gain weight uncontrollably despite diet and exercise? How do you get ahead of the game? You understand the system. You try and understand, how does this body work? And that's my job, is to try and help educate folks that all those type of problems like obesity and blood sugar lipids, like high cholesterol and LDL out of control, and heart disease and high blood pressure and insulin resistance, they all have a common denominator. And if you've never heard of the word fatty liver before, never heard of that term, then I'm going to introduce you to something that is pretty significant as far as help in getting that resolved. I'm going to do that after the break again. We're going to take a short break here on A Better Way to Health, but I really would love your questions. 340-1590 here on A Better Way to Health. Let's get your questions in, get them on the air, and figure out what we can do to improve your life and get you on to a better way to health as well. I'm Dr. Stuart Shipe. We're going to be right back after this brief announcement.
Wednesday Wednesday morning, Dr. Shipe. Will you be taking our children to school this morning, or am I?
I really need some time to prepare for my weekly radio program, A Better Way to Health. Would you mind, honey, taking the kids to school this morning?
What's in it for me?
I'll trade you a free acupuncture treatment and invigorating Tuina Chinese medical massage for all the stress you're under.
I already get acupuncture. I'm married to an acupuncturist, remember? You have to do better than that.
Call our staff at 398-4550 and tell them to prepare the Chinese herbal formula that boosts your qi and energy so you can breeze through today without any concerns or worries.
You just have an answer for any complaint.
Honey, that's the beauty of being an acupuncture physician. You get to study over 3,000 years of problems and how to solve them.
Solve the problem of sleeping on the couch tonight, Dr. Shipe, Mr. Chinese Emperor.
Well, actually, the emperors had concubines and slept in a different room each night with...
Keep pushing it and your pillow can be on the porch.
Got it. Kids, let's go to school.
Call Dr. Stuart Shipe at 398-4550 for a solution to your problem.
Visit their Treasure Coast location in Stuart.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Still social distancing? Take WPSL, WSTU, and the Power of Talk Radio with you digitally on TuneIn or Alexa at home, office, or car.
Okay, are we back yet, Greg?
It's 11:38 at WPSL 1590. The talk of the Treasure Coast. You're on A Better Way to Health with Dr. Stuart Shipe.
All right, we are back on WPSL. If you have questions, give us a call, 340-1590. Thank you guys for watching on Facebook. So I left you with fatty liver, right? And it's actually, we actually have machinery now, diagnostic machinery, to determine if we actually do have fatty liver disease state, which is really kind of crazy. I just look at an individual, and if you're significantly overweight, that's, well, how we measure that is something called a BMI, a basal metabolic index. And that takes into consideration your height, your weight, stature, things like that. And it gives you a final number. If it's less than 25, between 20 and 25, good healthy weight, 25 to 30, overweight, and over 30 is obesity. If I find a BMI on an individual over 30, I know already, I don't have to do an expensive test for fatty liver. I already know that that liver is congestion. They probably do have a fatty liver. And so I already start thinking about, okay, since I already know that, what's my very first restriction? Well, avoidance, don't make it any worse. Why does a liver become fatty? Well, the very first thing that you need to know is it has to do a lot with blood sugar. So as we eat a diet higher in carbohydrate and the body's starts becoming insulin resistant, which means at the cell level where the body tries to utilize the blood sugar, it doesn't need it anymore. It's become resistant to the ability to utilize blood sugar. That higher level of blood sugar is taken to the liver, and that liver metabolizes that by combining it with usually a fat called a triglyceride and sending it out into the blood system for storage. But it can also pack it away as a fat directly in itself in the liver. Now, the liver usually doesn't do that up front. Usually it's sending it out, trying to get it out of the liver, working it more efficiently. But over a period of time, you overwhelm it, it certainly will start packing fat within the liver itself. So the very first thing, obviously, the easiest would be to go on a low glycemic diet or a diet that is lower in carbohydrates. I don't understand. Well, I do understand, because of so many, politics and certainly players in the field of why, like COVID, we're saying everyone wear masks, why we aren't giving subsidies to, or why we're still giving subsidies to companies to produce a lot of starchy foods, right? Corn and wheat and these type of grains. You still have the American pyramid, the food pyramid by the United States government, telling us that the majority of all the foods that we eat in a 24-hour period, the highest amount should be in cereals and breads and carbohydrate. And I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of the wrong message, actually, to kind of invert that whole triangle from the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, should kind of be flipped on its head. So what you should be doing is consuming really good quality proteins, significant amounts of good quality fats, and then kind of limiting the amount of carbohydrates. If you could even think of like a Mediterranean diet, right? High in vegetables, high in good oils. Greg's giving me a thumbs up there, so he's probably knows all about that. And, you know, that's what we really need to do, is focusing our community and our media message on low glycemics, because that's ultimately going to develop fatty livers and people that have out of control systems. Well, if you were to make the body more efficient at burning fat instead of burning carbohydrates, that could also be another method, right? Because then the body would no longer need to hold on to the fat. And why does it hold on to fats? Well, fats are a good storage place for toxins. So when we're under a toxic burden every single day, it's usually stored away and out of the liver at that point, because the liver is like, I really don't want to store poison or toxin inside me. That would make it even worse. So it does try and shunt it out and pack it away. But for the really nasty stuff, and nasty in my book would be like, there's some toxins called organophosphates. One of the major players in the market is glyphosate, that comes from a well-known product that you probably heard of called Roundup. And when you spray this stuff into your weeds and into your garden, that stuff will probably stay in the environment for a couple million years, because organophosphates don't break down in nature very well. They're very tough molecules to try and break apart. When you eat foods, vegetables, plants, like we eat every single day, that plant now has loads of glyphosate in it. And glyphosate, when you intake that into your system, your liver looks at that problem and says, you're an organophosphate, or an organic molecule that is really hard to break down. And I can't break you down either. I don't even have the enzymes to be able to try and destroy you or break you down. So I have to deal with you because you're already here. So what do I do with you? Oh, I have a good idea. I'm just going to, like the nuclear waste that we have in the United States, I'm going to bury you 500 feet or a mile down in the Sedona Desert or somewhere out in New Mexico, and put you in the earth and forget about you and pretend like you weren't even there, because nuclear waste doesn't break down either over a short period of time, right? So we have all these barrels hidden somewhere in underneath the earth of nuclear waste. I kind of think of that a lot about what our body does. It packs it away. Where does it pack it away? It packs it away in fat cells. And so as you undergo dietary changes and start becoming your body more dependent on fat than on carbohydrate, you're going to start utilizing fat for energy. You start breaking down fat molecules, guess what you're going to release? It's kind of like hitting the mother lode of the nuclear waste dump that you've been storing in your body. It sometimes isn't too pleasant. That hazardous waste comes up to the forefront and you're like, oh my gosh, the nausea and the headache. And why do I feel so fatigued on this dietary intervention or this dietary change in my eating? Because I'm going to go back to the carbs, man, because I felt so good when I was eating carbohydrate. It gave me good energy. But if you really think it's just kindling on the fire, and it really is not conducive, certainly, to weight loss, your body has to be more efficient in certainly being able to burn fats. And you don't have to go into ketogenic diets and get really, really restrictive. All that I tell my patients very quickly is, the key to really trying to get your body back, if you really want to lose some weight, is just do 4 simple things. No bread, no pasta, no rice, no white potatoes. Just do that. Just avoid those foods. Yeah, Greg's saying, no, he loves his Italian bread. He absolutely. And rice meal, oh, perfect. But I'm telling you, if you just avoid and try and lower your carbohydrate intake, and it isn't easy. I have patients that, oh my gosh, they're like, oh, that was a piece of cake, Dr. Shipe, I can do that. And they come back after a week and say, that was the hardest thing in life they ever tried to do, is stop eating carbohydrates, like the simple starchy foods. But I was like, if you can get good quality protein, I'm not saying go meat free, but reduce the size of your meat, get some good fats on board, olive oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, coconut oils in your cooking and in your meals. You'll find that you don't have that craving after a while for the carbs. And you'll notice as well that you'll start dropping some weight. and not a lot, maybe about 1 to 2 pounds a week. But if you keep that up, that 1 to 2 pounds a week turns into 4 to 8 pounds every single month. And that 4 to 8 pounds every single month starts turning into 20 to 30 pounds month by month as you go through it. So the golden key is disease in every facet of life, whether it's high blood pressure, like I said, strokes, cancer, heart attacks, doesn't matter. In my book, every single disease is related to a nutritional deficiency or a nutritional excess. Based on Chinese medical principles, anything you do too much, you're going to get a disease. Anything you do not enough, not putting enough good nutrition into your body, you're going to get a disease. So it all starts ultimately with disease management. Also has to start with the diet. And it's tough. You can do things like turmeric or milk thistle or globe artichoke. These are great herbs in the Western world that can help the liver generate more bile, generate better kind of quality of cholesterol, bile acids and bile salts, all coming out of the liver that actually help emulsify fats, actually produce great bowel movements. I mean, here's another thing. To me, I will tell you, constipation is death. I mean, it's just that simple. If you're not having a good bowel movement every single day, what are you doing with the toxin? What are you doing with just the waste products every single day? You're trapping those, and those are being recycled routinely. So having a great digestive system, having a great bowel movement, no bloating, no gas, no indigestion, not a huge appetite, very satisfied and content after eating your meal, feels like everything is moving, everything's digesting. You come to me, you have bloating, gas, indigestion, reflux, which, by the way, is probably our #1 treatment in this office, is figuring out how to improve someone's digestive system. Because if you can get their digestive system in order, now in Chinese medicine, your immune system is back and primed up and ready to go. And if you can get the immune system back up, digestive system back up, now you're handling toxins amazingly. So it is a very first in my book as far as hierarchy of problems. I just talked to a guy yesterday. He came in, severe back pain. It's been going on for years and years. It's always gone away with rest, with hot packs, ice packs, used a chiropractor. And this is what I'm telling you. This is the type of thought process that we all have in America is, well, it wasn't too bad and it went away, so I'm good to go. And what happened is the problem, the why that caused his back problem is still there. He never addressed that. He got the symptomatic treatment for it, whether it was rest, of course, rest relaxes a muscle, chiropractic to manipulate the spine. But even at that, even with chiropractic and they manipulate the spine and put you back into an alignment still, the spine isn't going to stay in alignment if the muscles that hold the spine in alignment are out of balance. They're just going to pull you out of alignment. I know you guys are with me. You might have had a great chiropractic adjustment. And by the time you got home and got out of the car, you're like, oh my gosh, it's already back. You might as well sit down in the car and drive yourself all the way back to the chiropractor for another manipulation. It's because the why wasn't addressed, whether it was the adrenal is too weak, whether you've had some other issues, toxin issues, muscle spasms, all trying to tell the body that I'm not working adequately. But this guy didn't heed those messages. And year after year, it would flare up. Oh, I had a bad flare up in 1994. I had another bad flare up in 2006. And they've always went away. But Dr. Shipe, man, since November, it isn't going away. It's like it was getting bad and getting worse. Now, this guy couldn't even sit down. I was like, did half of his exam, him walking around the room, because it was too painful to even sit down. So we think that it just happened. Now I need help. Now I need support. No, brother, you needed support back in 1994. You needed to address the why at that point so that today you wouldn't be walking around my office in severe pain. Same thing with the liver. I mean, I was using an analogy of pain, but it's the same thing, is that we don't recognize, oh, you might have recognized the liver wasn't optimally functioning. Maybe you had a little bit of nausea. Maybe you got bowel problems. Maybe you do have bloating, constipation. Maybe you have irritable bowel syndrome. Maybe you hear noises rocking. Maybe you have a lot of gas. And you just say, isn't that everybody? That's so common. Doesn't everybody have that? I'm telling you, now's the time. That's your body. That's your liver telling you that I'm not working right. because the liver and gallbladder in Chinese medicine are notorious for picking on the digestive system. And if you take the big bully called the liver off the digestive system's back, the digestive system can recover. And everyone in America loves sour foods, right? No. But sour is the flavor that can harmonize the liver's energy in Chinese medicine, bring balance back to the liver. Sweet is the flavor of the spleen and stomach, the digestive system. But it's asking for the sweet fruits and the sweet vegetables. But we feed it the confectionery, the high carbohydrate load, and we hurt it. We damage it. We start weakening our digestive system. And then the bully just has an opportunistic attack. And how do I know that? When people come in with reflux and bitter taste in the mouth, or even so, they come in with a gallbladder they've already had removed. And then I say, when did you have your gallbladder removed? Oh, I had my gallbladder removed 20 years ago. I was like, well, then your problem is probably 30 years old, because obviously it wasn't when the gallbladder had to be taken out. That was when it was in crisis management. And now you're having the same issues that you had when you had your gallbladder. Is that correct? And they're like, yeah, I still am. I was like, then taking the gallbladder out didn't solve the problem, did it? That was just relief care. The problem is that you had a toxic, maybe a fatty liver at that point, and the liver was producing sludge and getting into the gallbladder. Your gallbladder wasn't accepting that, revolted, finally got inflamed, maybe even gallstones. We've had a talk on that in the past. So how can you fix it now? So is the water underneath the bridge? Well, it would have been easier to fix it back in 1994 when you had your first episode, or when you were having that problem with digestion. But the true definition of health, if you really want to have that, first of all, is no drugs. By the time you have to use strong toxins to bring your body back to balance and eliminate symptoms, man, it's been pretty bad. I mean, you've lost a lot of function. Symptoms are the very first stage, right? No, they're the last stage of disease. Because you've heard of people like that have high blood pressure, never knew it, diabetes, never knew it, had a fatty liver, or had carotid artery blockage, right? In their neck, or cardiovascular blockage. And they went into the doctor because they were tightness, a little bit of tightness in the chest. And the doctor looks at them and says, your circumflex artery, the one that rotates behind the heart there, 95% blocked. Did you know that? And the guy said, wow, I had no idea that my veins were blocked. That's what I'm talking about, folks. I'm talking about long-term chronic illnesses that actually start causing symptoms now. And that symptom is probably going to be, hopefully not the first symptom is the last symptom, like a stroke or heart attack. But you have to consider what's wrong with this picture. The wrongness in the picture is our thought about health, is how we think about health and how we think about wellness. So the Chinese, leaving you with this comment, the Chinese have always been very knowledgeable. It's never about treating disease. People always ask me, do you treat diabetes, high blood pressure? Do you treat all the, no matter what you ask me, I'm always going to say, no, I don't treat any of those. And you're like, wow, I read that acupuncture was really good for like back pain and stuff like that. I was like, I don't treat the disease name. I don't treat the hypertension. I don't treat the diabetes. But what I am treating is to try and balance your system back, to try and support your system so that you don't need the medication anymore. Because a well-balanced system is designed by God, our dear Lord, to be perfectly functioning, to function without the necessity for toxins or drugs that constantly have to be taken to make it at least function halfway normal. So the Chinese it's imperative that they focus on wellness and not disease. Yes, you got to get through the disease process. Yes, we can help mitigate a lot of the symptoms and help you feel much, much better. But the why is not there in Western biomedical thought processes. Why do I have this problem? It is in Chinese medicine. And for disorders, just like Greg mentioned at the beginning of the show, he goes, can you treat time problems, like when we go into savings time? And I say, yes, we can, because we're treating a balance in the body, an imbalance in the body to try and balance that. And the criteria for health, very, very simply, in the last 4 minutes, I only need 30 seconds, is the face and the chest should feel cool. The hands and the feet should feel warm. Should have a good bowel movement at least once a day. Good urinary flow 5 to 7 times a day, and a light yellow urine to that. Your appetite should be controlled, not excessive and not having an appetite. That's no good. And listen, you should have great energy during the day. So just that simple criteria and sleeping like a baby, that simple criteria that we should all say is good. And I have this and this and this, and that's good. That means you're a setup. Now get the internal organs checked. How do you do that? By the Chinese pulse, by looking at the tongue, by looking at the eyes, by looking at the ear. All of these are diaries of the body that can tell a Chinese doctor what's happening inside, not just because you have absence of symptoms, but really find out truly, is your body back in balance? And a Chinese doctor can do great diagnostics that way. And then give you the education like I am right now about what organ system may be at risk for having problems. Because symptoms, folks, I say this all the time, symptoms are the last stage of disease and they're not going to go away. Like that guy I told you about with pain, they just get worse. They get worse to the point that we can't function. Then we have to depend on very, very harsh remedies like taking opiates for pain or having surgery or interventions like that. Way too long. And at that point, I'm glad we have Western medicine and those interventions that are very powerful. But we should catch it before then. It's so much less time, so much less expensive to catch disease in its infancy than to treat it after it's really manifested unbalanced for a long period of time. And we do go through patients and we look at trying to evaluate. So what's going on with you? Because you're an individual, you're different than the next person that walks in with the same type of problem. You have different attitudes, your body's responding to this disorder differently. So treat the person as an individual and not as a disease. I don't treat the disease name, I treat the person, treat the individual. And if we can't help you, I have well-grained turf of knowledge in being a pharmacist here for 30 years, physician for 20 years. We have friends in gastroenterology, neurology, orthopedics that we can refer our patients to as well. But man, start thinking about prevention first, because that's really the goal. You'll feel so much better. If we can't help you, we'll refer you. But if we can help you, man, you've got a great healing intervention coming up for you. I'm glad you joined me today. I am so happy. If you have any messages for me or comments, you can go to info@traditionalchinesehealing.com. Give my office a call at 398-4550-772. 398-4550 if you're calling long distance. May the Chi be with you. The dear Lord bless you with abundant health every single day. Until we meet again, Zaijian. Love being with you guys today. I'll see you next week.
You've been listening to A Better Way to Health with Dr. Stuart Shipe in Stuart, Florida. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, Talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world on Alexa, Google Home, and the TuneIn app. It's 12 noon.